Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, we're doing it. We're going live. Let's have an awesome call. Who wants to start us off with a great share? Who's got something going good in their world? Somebody share some positivity. I guess I will start in the fact that I appear to be streaming on all of these platforms. It appears to be working. We'll see if this stuff all gets recorded and uploaded. But it's probably been about 72 hours worth of tech hacking to figure it all out. If we don't have anything positive to share, how about something that's going on in a real estate deal of yours that you're looking for some help with, that you came across, you just learned, you think would be a good share for the group? Who's got something going on in the deal? Amber, what do you got?
It's not a deal. It's actually just a question. So, I have a couple buyers who are a little picky, not a lot out there, et cetera, et cetera. Going through the MLS, and I don't know if this has been discussed yet, I'm noticing more and more that the buyer's agent compensation is being put back in. So I don't know if something changed, if some people just don't abide by it. I don't know if everybody else has seen this, but I just was wondering what's going on with that.
Obviously, I'm in the MLS on a daily, so this is the first I'm hearing of it, and I appreciate you bringing it up on this call. Anybody else kind of noticing a similar trend? Are we seeing more people? Margareta, go ahead.
Morning, all. Yeah, definitely. And I was shocked when I saw it almost a month ago now, I want to say, that it was popping up in the field, that it's, they're right there bluntly back to what we were doing.
Okay, yeah, it's probably been about a month, and I've been meaning to talk about it, but with everything going on with me, I haven't had the brains to remember. And then this morning I saw it again, and I was like, I have to bring this up on the call. So,
yeah, Jen, go ahead.
I actually just had a CE class yesterday, and an attorney was given the presentation, and he said that he stressed being careful about posting it anywhere, not just MLS, but also any website that could, I don't know, any of your websites even, he said. So he even said people were getting creative with just like posting it in photos, and he said to just be really careful and not do that. So he seems to think it's still like a dangerous thing. He did say that with this lawsuit where it started, it wasn't even the law that they couldn't post it. And they, and with the settlement and everything, that just, it was just kind of a scary thing. And everybody should just not do it, even though it wasn't the law even here. We're just not doing it because of, what happened. So I don't know. I don't know why they'd be doing that. But he seems to still say not to do that. He actually went on to even, and I'm going to talk to I'll reach out to the broker about this, but he seemed to think that it was necessary to include certain language in the purchase and sale, making us a party to the purchase and sale in order to ensure that we receive compensation. So he didn't think that the verbiage was even enough that was in the contract, because he said,
my last couple deals since this has all gone down, it is written into the purchase and sale. So it shows exactly what everybody's making. In my case, my buyers are coming to the table with some money as well, and it all is put right into the purchase and sale. The first one that didn't happen, they had to have everybody re-sign and redo it, because they said if it wasn't in the purchase and sale, that we weren't going to be getting paid. So
he said that it was more than that. It was like there had to actually be verbiage saying that we are an interested party. That just having it in there was enough. And I had asked him, I said, well, that doesn't make any sense. Wouldn't you know when you get at the closing, you're going to have the check there? And he said some attorneys aren't collecting it at closing. He's telling the sellers to go ahead and pay after closing, or just go ahead and write them a check, which blew my mind because I didn't even think that was a thing. And that's when he
KB.
said that there wouldn't be recourse.
KB, you had your hand up. What do you got?
Yeah, so I think that I want to just make it clear is that the buyer representation being an MLS is not a law. It's a guideline for realtors. So people that are affiliated with the Realtor Association. Every MLS is different. So if you belong to an MLS that's owned by the Realtor Association, then you're not going to have an option to put compensation into MLS. If you belong to an MLS that is not, such as MLS PIN, you do have an option to put it into MLS. As a brokerage, when we were Roby Homes, we opted to remove that capability from all of our agents because the lawsuit instructed us to do so. Real is also a realtor brokerage, right? So we have to be realtors to be part of the brokerage. So they're going to go by the same guidelines. So as long as you're affiliated with a realtor brokerage, your all of the compensation should not be listed in MLS. It won't be listed on any third-party sites. You can put it on your personal site for your listing, but recommendation is not to put it out there at all. And that was just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I mean, that's my understanding too. I'm not aware of anything that has changed at this point. Just remember in Massachusetts, one of the major MLSs is MLS PIN, which is not Realtor owned. So they don't have to follow those same guidelines. And then you've also got non-Realtor agents, just regular licensed agents that don't have to abide by that. So those are the types of agents and those are the MLSs that would allow for this practice. So I know even after the ruling, there were agents that were part of Realtor brokerages that were still putting co-brokes in there, which was just interesting to me on why they'd be going against the ruling. So, KB.
I think just another important thing to remember is that they negotiated these lawsuits to protect us, providing we follow these rules, right? So if anyone were to bring some sort of a lawsuit up against someone who's doing these things, if they're a non-realtor, there's no protections for them. So that's part of the benefit of being part of the Realtor Association is that, we were included in these protections. So
Go ahead, Lauren.
So my thought around this is really pay attention to whether or not it's there if these are properties that you're writing contracts on. Because obviously, specifically in Massachusetts, when we are using the MAR 709 or document for, not 709, 501 for writing buyer contracts, there is section 2 in there that is a buyer requesting the seller to pay compensation. And that says it's in addition to anything that is offered in the MLS or broker to broker, if that does exist anywhere. So if the full compensation would be offered broker to broker and is advertised in the MLS, we wouldn't be utilizing that section. So just make sure when you're writing up these contracts, you're paying attention and know how the compensations are getting paid out.
Any additional questions on this topic? That's a great share, Amber. Thanks for bringing this one up. I'm not sure why you're seeing, an increase. Adam.
Hey, I'm just wondering if Amber can go a little deeper. She said something about her buyer bringing money to the table, and I think that may be a conversation some of us have to have with buyers. So I'm just wondering how that came about and how she had that conversation.
So when I do my buyer's broker, when I sit down and talk to them about what my job is and what this is all about and why it came about and yada, 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 I have a number that I put in there every single time. And we talk about it. I let them know that, we don't know what these sellers are going to come with. But this is what I feel like my value is. If we get to a house and they don't have it, we get to a property and there's less, obviously if, I've showed them, 500 houses, I'm going to go, but there are clients who can't afford it. And we talk about it. I've had a few people who said, that's ridiculous. I just want to see this one house. I'm not paying that. And I do say, listen, I get where you're coming from. But if I don't put this in and this is what they're offering, then I can't get that. So usually I let them know it's a discussion. Some people don't feel comfortable with it, but I will say 9 out of 10, I don't even know if they read it, to tell you the truth. I do go over it with them, and 9 out of 10 will sign it either right away or after, sometimes we'll just put it for a day. But most of them sign for at least 3 months. And then if we have to extend, we extend.
And just to clarify, you're not like increasing the purchase price to get the money. You're not working with a lender to get the money. It's just an additional out of pocket, closing costs for them at the, day closing.
We do discuss that. I do let them know that, the seller, more than likely, especially if their agent has coached them, is willing to offer something. And then if they really can't, we can, go to other options. Sometimes the lender is putting it in to get to that. Usually, especially if they're easy clients and whatnot, I will go down. I'm finding there's really across the board, everybody's offering a certain number. I've seen a few that have surprised me. But again, the ones that I've dealt with, I've had 3 so far, and I'm working with another one that is willing to pay an additional dollar amount towards my commission if the seller isn't willing.
Margareta.
So, I've actually, I think, closed 2 so far since this came on board with the commission, and I had the seller pay me. I'm sorry, the buyer pay me directly at closing. And one was a cash deal, so it came from her funds. The other one was actually a lender's, worked into the lender agreement. I actually just made an offer yesterday. I talked to the agent, the listing agent. He's like, because I highlighted, obviously, if I'm not asking to be paid for my commission, it's more money on the table for the seller, especially in a competitive market. That's the way to do. If that's all I got, that's what I'm going to use. And he's like, he'd make a note of it because like it's the first offer I've seen like that. Most agents do put that commission down and try to negotiate it somehow. And I get it, but in a competitive situation, that's something that you can use as leverage. If there's enough knowing your client, you got to know your client, you got to know the finances behind that client. So, it's a leverage point, I think, and I don't know. Are you saying that like I thought that it was more flexible on how we use that? I'm using it as a leverage, and it sounds like everybody else is putting something down for the commission. Is that what it is? I'm curious.
I usually talk to the seller's agent to find out what they're looking for, find out if they're offering it. Most of them will say, yes, they're offering X percent. Some, usually what I say when I list a property and what others have said is, yes, the seller is aware that, that the buyers will be asking for some sort of commission. And, they haven't set a number in mind. They will go by what the offer looks like. And, decide. And obviously we would let them know, prior, but most of my buyers know that, they could be my sellers could be responsible for from X to Z, that it's not mandatory, but to get buyers through the door, sometimes, usually that's what is being done.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I do want to clarify. I do ask first before we make an offer, is there any compensation? If there is, of course, I'm going to use that because that's benefit to my buyer. But if it is actually just with this particular offer, he normally had asked for payments, for the commission, but it's a competitive situation and it just his finances are tight. So I'm like, we can get this out of your loan, but it puts you in a better situation. So I did kind of use it as leverage.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing to remember here, Margareta, is that even if they're offering compensation, that doesn't mean you have to use it. right? That could be, if you've got a really strong buyer with a really strong cash position, that's great that they're offering X percent, and all the other buyer agents are going to take that percent, and your offer is going to be a little bit stronger because you're saying the buyer is going to pay me directly. So, it's a negotiation tactic for sure. So, I'm just curious from the group, how many people are finding when asking about compensation that they're not offering? Are we seeing that very often? It just would seem to me that it's going to always be in the seller's best interest to just say, yeah, we're willing to compensate based on the terms of the offer.
I've never had anyone tell me no.
No, yeah. It seems kind of crazy to me to be in a seller's position where you just say no. I mean, show me the offer and then I'll tell you whether I'm willing to compensate. Lauren.
My last listing, my seller was absolutely not paying the buyer's agent commission. It was back in August while all this was going down. So very much in the news and out everywhere. And he was like, absolutely not. He's like, somebody wants to buy this, buyer can pay their half. I'm paying my part. That's what it'll be. And I mean, it luckily worked out for us. But
And you obviously explained, Lauren, well, what if somebody came in $10,000 higher than everybody else? They're only asking for $5,000 towards the buyer's agent, and you'd net $5,000 more in your pocket. So I just want to make sure we're clear. If that scenario comes up, you're not willing to pay a buyer's comp. Did you role play that?
absolutely. Yep. And he's
still,
like,
and no.
yeah, he was like, I guess if it really came down to that and somebody was willing to give me that much more, he goes, but no, I'm not paying anything if anybody comes anywhere near what we're listed at.
Yeah, I think he showed his cards with that comment, right? At the end of the day, if you put that offer out there that's going to net them $10,000 more, $5,000 more, they're going to do whatever they got to do to get the. I just can't imagine somebody going, morals, just not going to do it.
Right. And
Yeah,
I mean, and luckily, so when people were asking, right, because it was at the time when everybody started asking, I was like, no, we're not offering anything out. And I think me and you went through this because it was so early and it's still, I was like, just want to make sure you understand we're not offering anything. Just make you understand we're not offering anything. And they were like, it's okay. My buyer will pay. So like I said, I think we really lucked out all around where we had a buyer that was able to cover it.
Yeah, I think that's the other scenario that you got to understand, that seller is pushing potential offers away, right? Some of these offers are absolutely going to need it, and they could be phenomenal offers. So, Mr. Seller, I just want to make sure you understand, when I get asked that question and I say, no, we're not willing to do it, that could be 90% of the buyers agents and the buyers that they're representing out there. Are you sure you want to push away this portion, this percentage of potential offers, right? So I just want to make sure we're having strong role play dialogue, and maybe this was just in the heat of the moment, like you said, but make sure we know what to say to our seller if they're really going down that road, because I just don't think it would ever benefit that seller to take that position.
Yeah, I think it was
Amber.
very much like you're saying, heat of the moment.
Yeah.
Because he had just purchased another home as well in Texas and he had to pay. So like I think he was just feeling it all around. So
Yeah. Amber, I think you were next.
I think the biggest thing that I've noticed is nothing's really changed. People are freaked out about it. Before it was just written there. Either way, the buyer's bringing the money, whether they're, we've always increased our offer if we had to. It's just we have to just explain it. And the way I do explain it is nothing has changed. It's just the way people are doing it has changed, but it still means the same exact thing. The seller is looking for a number, you're bringing the number, whether you're asking for it or not. Before it was just there. Now we just have to ask for it. So personally, I don't think much has changed. It's a little bit more of a headache, in my opinion, especially like with Lauren said, a person that's like, nope, I'm not paying because I don't have to pay type of thing. And I'm sure, knowing Lauren, she explained all the ins and outs of it. And some people just don't understand. But truthfully, it's still business as usual, in my opinion.
This is one of those scenarios, and I don't know that it's going to come up that much, but this is one of those scenarios that I would just want to make sure, if you are on this call, you are ready to drive the bus. If your seller is being adamant about this, I really want you to get down and dirty and make sure they clearly understand, literally to the point of write out 2 different offers, show them, right? Because it could really hurt them to take this position, in my opinion. So just make sure you push if you do come up against this scenario where you got a seller that's not willing to offer comp. We got 8 minutes left here. What do you guys got? Who else has got something going on in a deal? What'd you learn recently? That would be a great share for the group. The next topic that I had kind of on the inspection front was crumbling foundations. We really haven't talked about this much. Curious if anybody on the call has had something recently, just a good share around this topic, and just kind of talk through this. I don't know that we've ever had a good conversation around this. So go ahead, Amber.
One of my listings actually had pyrite in the foundation. My client actually purchased it like that. And what this house had, there's another house that one of my current clients is looking at in Connecticut, actually, that was built in the 80s and has pyrite in the foundation. So it was a positive test. It was a core test. The difference, I think, between that house and the house that I sold is well, she purchased it and then sold it. The testing that was done. So there's a visual test initially where they look at the cracks and they look at, all that stuff. And then the second one's the core test. Well, the house that I sold had very definitive testing. So first thing was, this is the visual, this is what we're seeing. Second thing was, they did the core test and they actually analyzed it by percentage. How much pyrite, they took it from 2 different areas, how much pyrite can they quantitatively say is in it? And it was less than 0.5%. There was no crumbling shown. There was a crack at the foundation, but it was a normal stress crack, settling crack, whatever you want to call it. None of it was spidering, etc. This other house that my client really wanted to look at and wanted to know why it was so well priced and then I found out, just stated that they did 2 core tests and pyrite was present. No other information. So we don't know how much was present. They did note that there was some spidering, so I have a feeling that it is a bit higher. But yeah, I think that if you have one like that is showing signs of something, and the buyer, seller, whatever wants to test it, to really get the test done and get it done so that they know. Either way, there's people that just aren't going to buy the house. But ours did sell. And that was the selling point on that one was, hey, I mean, obviously if it's higher, you might be screwed, but these are all the tests that were run. It was $5,000 worth of tests. The state in Connecticut only paid for it one time. So if you have one and you're going to test it, to do it, I guess, right.
Yeah, that's a great share. Anybody want to add to that? Anything around the testing? Hey, this is what I learned. We did a test. And anything around the results of doing one of those tests? Nicole.
I don't have anything about actual testing. I was just wondering, I don't know much about it in Mass. Is there any funding or anything yet? Does anyone know if Massachusetts has started anything?
There's a bill, but so far nothing. There's actually a house right in Munson that literally, if you look, the house it's actually like falling apart. They can't obviously sell it. There's nothing in Mass to protect them. And it kind of really sucks.
Has anybody gone through or had their client go through the funding process, the insurance process? Okay.
I had a buyer who was buying a house that had it previously, and they had already repaired it. And that seller, I don't have any information on it, but that seller did say they did it through their insurance, which I didn't think was possible.
Oh, it wasn't through the funding from the state?
No, they actually somehow fought with their homeowner's insurance and got it done, which I've heard that that's near impossible.
Huh.
So I don't
And
know if
so
she
can
just
you,
pushed enough or if it was earlier on when it came up that there wasn't state funding yet or there wasn't enough knowledge on it, but might be
can you,
worth.
can you
Go
walk
ahead.
us through like what was made available for you, right? So what, if I'm understanding you correctly, property is listed. They disclosed that they had a crumbling foundation and that they had it fixed. Is that the gist?
Yeah, they had a crumbling foundation. It was years before they even put it on the market. So they just had paperwork in the MLS that the house had already been lifted up and they put all new foundation down. They actually used a foundation that I had never heard of before. It was, I can't even remember what it was. They didn't pour a whole new foundation. I can try to look it up and get back on a different call on what it was, but it was whatever the insurance okayed, but they just provided the paperwork that everything was done and what company did it and everything.
And they replaced the entire foundation, lifted the house, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
I had one of these one street over from my property. Feel like the house was on stilts for a year. Lifted it up, ripped out the entire foundation, and then poured a whole new foundation, and then lowered the house back down. So pretty crazy.
One thing to keep
Any
in mind if a client is getting into it and they are using the funds from the state, if there's all the funds cover is the actual foundation. So if there's any damage to the house while they have it lifted or when they put it back down, anything structural, they're not going to cover that.
anybody else want to just chime in on the crumbling foundation, or a share that you might have had or experience? Yeah, they're pretty tricky, you know. But I think, I think they've got the whole situation under control. I think the funds seem to be there, not in Massachusetts, obviously, but in the core areas of Connecticut, it seems like when done right, I think you're going to be okay. All right, let me just share up here. That is the wrong share. Let's do that. Let's get the live events up for you guys. So here is what the available trainings are today. We've got Trends and Tactics Mastermind, El Modelo Ganador de Rail para Los Angeles, something regarding the fires, I'm assuming. That's an interesting one. Results in less time with AI. That's interesting. We have not seen an AI training come up in Real Academy yet, so that might be a good one if you're interested in the AI front. Psychology-driven sales, an attraction accelerator, and then living a high-performance life. So some interesting trainings out there. As we always say, I would love to have you guys take one of these trainings, come back and share what you learned. So appreciate you guys jumping on this morning. Some great banter. Hope you learned something, and have yourselves a great Tuesday. Come back energized, and we'll do it again tomorrow morning. Take care.